Section 51 of The Dream of the Red Chamber, Book 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Elizabeth Buchanan. The Dream of the Red Chamber, Book 1, by Xueqin. Translated by Henry Bencraft Joly. Chapter 22, Part 1. Upon hearing the text of the stanza, Pao yü comprehends the Buddhistic spells. While the enigmas for the lanterns are being devised, Chia Cheng is grieved by a prognostic. Chia Lien, for we must now prosecute our story, upon hearing lady Feng observe that she had something to consult about with him, felt constrained to halt and to inquire what it was about. On the 21st, lady Feng explained, is cousin Xue's birthday, and what do you, after all, purpose doing?
"Do I know what to do?" exclaimed Chia Lien. "You have made, time and again, arrangements for ever so many birthdays of grown-up people, and do you really find yourself on this occasion without any resources?"
"Birthdays of grown-up people are subject to prescribed rules," lady Feng expostulated, "but her present birthday is neither one of an adult nor that of an infant, and that's why I would like to deliberate with you." Chia Lien, upon hearing this remark, lowered his head and gave himself to protracted reflection. "You're indeed grown dull!" he cried. "Why, you've a precedent ready at hand to suit your case! Cousin Lin's birthday affords a precedent, and what you did in former years for cousin Lin, you can, in this instance, do likewise for cousin Xue, and it will be all right." At these words, lady Feng gave a sarcastic smile. "Do you pray mean to insinuate," she added, "that I'm not aware of even this? I too had previously come, after some thought, to this conclusion; but old lady Chia explained in my hearing yesterday that having made inquiries about all their ages and their birthdays, she learned that cousin Xue would this year be 15, and that though this was not the birthday which made her of age, she could anyhow well be regarded as being on the dawn of the year in which she would gather up her hair, so that our dowager lady enjoined that her anniversary should, as a matter of course, be celebrated, unlike that of cousin Lin." "Well, in that case," Chia Lien suggested, "you had better make a few additions to what was done for cousin Lin." "That's what I too am thinking of," lady Feng replied, "and that's why I'm asking your views; for were I on my own hook to add anything, you would again feel hurt for my not having explained things to you." "That will do, that will do!" Chia Lien rejoined laughing. "None of these sham attentions for me! So long as you don't pry into my doings, it will be enough; and will I go so far as to bear you a grudge?" With these words still in his mouth, he forthwith went off. But leaving him alone, we shall now return to Shih Hsiang yün. After a stay of a couple days, her intention was to go back, but dowager lady Chia said, "Wait until after you have seen the theatrical performance, when you can return home." At this proposal, Shih Hsiang yün felt constrained to remain, but she at the same time despatched a servant to her home to fetch 2 pieces of needlework, which she had in former days worked with her own hands, for a birthday present for Pao ch'ai. Contrary to all expectations, old lady Chia had, since the arrival of Pao ch'ai, taken quite a fancy to her, for her sedateness and good nature; and as this happened to be the first birthday which she was about to celebrate in the family, she herself readily contributed 20 taels, which, after sending for lady Feng, she handed over to her to make arrangements for a banquet and performance. "A venerable senior like yourself," lady Feng thereupon smiled and ventured, with a view to enhancing her good cheer, "is at liberty to celebrate the birthday of a child in any way agreeable to you, without any one presuming to raise any objection. But what's the use again of giving a banquet? But since it be your good pleasure and your purpose to have it celebrated with éclat, you could, needless to say, your own self, have spent several taels from the private funds in that old treasury of yours, but you now produce those 20 tales spoilt by damp and mould, to play the hostess with the view indeed of compelling us to supply what's wanted. But hadn't you really been able to contribute any more, no one would have a word to say; but the gold and silver, round as well as flat, have with their heavy weight pressed down the bottom of the box, and your sole object is to harass us and to extort from us. But raise your eyes and look about you. Who isn't your venerable ladyship's son and daughter? And is it likely, pray, that in the future there will only be cousin Pao yü to carry you, our old lady, on his head, up the Wu Tai Shan? You may keep all these things for him alone; but though we mayn't at present deserve that anything should be spent upon us, you shouldn't go so far as to place us in any perplexities by compelling us to subscribe. And is this now enough for wines, and enough for the theatricals?" As she bandied these words, every one in the whole room burst out laughing. Even dowager lady Chia broke out in laughter, while she observed: "Do you listen to that mouth! I myself am looked upon as having the gift of gab, but why is it that I can't talk in such a wise as to put down this monkey? Your mother-in-law herself doesn't dare to be so overbearing in her speech, and here you are jabber with me." "My mother-in-law," explained lady Feng, "is also as fond of Pao yü as you are; so much so that I haven't anywhere I could go and give vent to my grievances; and instead of showing me some regard, you say that I'm overbearing in my speech." With these words, she again enticed dowager lady Chia to laugh for a while. The old lady continued in the highest of spirits, and when evening came, and they all appeared in her presence to pay their obeisance, her ladyship made it a point, while the whole company of ladies and young ladies were engaged in chatting, to ascertain of Pao ch'ai what play she liked to hear, and what things she fancied to eat. Pao ch'ai was well aware that dowager lady Chia, well up in years though she was, delighted in sensational performances, and was partial to sweet and tender viands, so that she readily deferred, in every respect, to those things which were to the taste of her ladyship, and enumerated a whole number of them, which made the old lady become the more exuberant; and the next day, she was the first to send over clothes, knick-knacks and such presents; while madame Wang and lady Feng, Tai yü and the other girls, as well as the whole number of inmates, had all presents for her, regulated by their degree of relationship, to which we need not allude in detail. When the 21st arrived, a stage of an ordinary kind, small but yet handy, was improvised in dowager lady Chia's inner court, and a troupe of young actors, who had newly made their début, was retained for the nonce, among whom were both those who could sing tunes, slow as well as fast. In the drawing rooms of the old lady were then laid out several tables for a family banquet and entertainment, at which there was not a single outside guest, and with the exception of Mrs. Xue, She Hsiang yün and Pao ch'ai, who were visitors, the rest were all inmates of her household. On this day, Pao yü failed, at an early hour, to see anything of Lin Daiyu, and coming at once to her rooms in search of her, he discovered her reclining on the stove couch. "Get up," Pao yü pressed her with a smile, "and come and have breakfast, for the plays will commence shortly; but whichever plays you would like to listen to, do tell me so that I may be able to choose them." Tai yü smiled sarcastically. "In that case," she rejoined, "you had better specially engage a troupe and select those I like sung for my benefit; for on this occasion you can't be so impertinent as to make use of their expense to ask me what I like." "What's there impossible about this?" Pao yü answered smiling. "Well, to morrow I'll readily do as you wish, and ask them too to make use of what is yours and mine." As he passed this remark, he pulled her up, and taking her hand in his own, they walked out of the room and came and had breakfast. When the time arrived to make a selection of the plays, dowager lady Chia, of her own motion, first asked Pao ch'ai to mark off those she liked; and though for a time Pao ch'ai declined yielding the choice to others, she had no alternative but to decide, fixing upon a play called "The Record of the Western Tour," a play of which the old lady herself was very fond. Next in order, she bade lady Feng choose,
and lady Feng had, after all, in spite of madame Wang ranking before her in precedence, to consider old lady Chia's request, and not to presume to show obstinacy by any disobedience. But as she knew well enough that her ladyship had a penchant for what was exciting, and that she was still more partial to jests, jokes, epigrams and buffoonery, she therefore hastened to precede madame Wang and to choose a play, which was in fact no other than Liu Erh pawns his clothes. Dowager lady Chia was, of course, still more elated, and after this she speedily went on to ask Tai yü to choose. Tai yü likewise concedingly yielded her turn in favour of madame Wang and the other seniors, to make their selections before her; but the old lady expostulated. "Today," she said, "is primarily an occasion, on which I've brought all of you here, for your special recreation, and we had better look after our own selves and not heed them; for have I, do you imagine, gone to the trouble of having a performance and laying a feast for their special benefit? They're already reaping benefit enough by being in here, listening to the plays and partaking of the banquet, when they have no right to either; and are they to be pressed further to make a choice of plays?" At these words, the whole company had a hearty laugh; after which Tai yü at length marked off a play. Next in order, following Pao yü, Xie Xiangyuan, Ying Ch'un, Tan Ch'un, Hsi Ch'un, widow Li Wan, and the rest, each and all of whom made a choice of plays, which were sung in the costumes necessary for each. When the time came to take their places at the banquet, dowager lady Chia bade Pao Ch'ai make another selection, and Pao Ch'ai cast her choice upon the play Lu Qi Xian, in a fit of drunkenness, stirs up a disturbance in the Wu Tai mountain; whereupon Pao yü interposed with the remark: "All you fancy is to choose plays of this kind;" to which Pao Ch'ai rejoined: "You've listened to plays all these years to no avail; how could you know the beauties of this play? The stage effect is grand, but what is still better are the apt and elegant passages in it." "I've always had a dread of such sensational plays as these," Pao yü retorted. "If you call this play sensational," Pao Ch'ai smilingly expostulated, "well then, you may fitly be looked upon as being no connoisseur of plays. But come over and I'll tell you. This play constitutes one of a set of books, entitled the Pei Tien Peng Ch'un, which as far as harmony, musical rests and closes, and tunes go, is, it goes without saying, perfect. But there's among the elegant compositions a ballad entitled the Parasitic Plant, written in a most excellent style. But how could you know anything about it?" Pao yü, upon hearing her speak of such points of beauty, hastily drew near to her. "My dear cousin," he entreated, "recite it and let me hear it." Whereupon Pao Ch'ai went on as follows: "My manly tears I will not wipe away, but from this place, the scholar's home, I'll stray. The bonnes for mercy I shall thank, under the lotus altar shave my pate. With Yuan to be the luck I lack, soon in a twinkle we shall separate, and needy and forlorn I'll come and go, with none to care about my fate. Thither shall I a suppliant be, for a fog wrapper and rain hat, my warrant I shall roll, and listless with straw shoes and broken bowl, wherever to convert my fate may be, I'll stroll." As soon as Pao yü had listened to her recital, he was so full of enthusiasm that, clapping his knees with his hands and shaking his head, he gave vent to incessant praise; after which he went on to extol Pao Ch'ai, saying: "There's no book that you don't know." "Be quiet and listen to the play," Lin Daiyu urged; "they haven't yet sung about the mountain gate, and you already pretend to be mad." At these words, Hsiang yün also laughed. But in due course, the whole party watched the performance until evening, when they broke up. Dowager lady Chia was so very much taken with the young actor who played the role of a lady, as well as with the one who acted the buffoon, that she gave orders that they should be brought in; and as she looked at them closely,
she felt so much the more interest in them that she went on to inquire what their ages were; and when the would-be lady replied that he was just 11, and the would-be buffoon explained that he was just 9, the whole company gave vent for a time to expressions of sympathy with their lot, while dowager lady Chia bade servants bring a fresh supply of meats and fruits for both of them, and also gave them, besides their wages, 2 tiaos as a present. "This lad," lady Feng observed smiling, "is, when dressed up as a girl, a living likeness of a certain person. Did you notice it just now?" Pao ch'ai was also aware of the fact, but she simply nodded her head assentingly and did not say who it was. Pao yü likewise expressed his assent by shaking his head, but he too did not presume to speak out. Shih Hsiang yün, however, readily took up the conversation. "He resembles," she interposed, "cousin Lin's face." When this remark reached Pao yü's ear, he hastened to cast an angry scowl at Hsiang yün, and to make her a sign; while the whole party, upon hearing what had been said, indulged in careful and minute scrutiny of the lad, and as they all began to laugh, "The resemblance is indeed striking!" they exclaimed. After a while they parted, and when evening came, Hsiang yün directed Ts'u Lu to pack up her clothes. "What's the hurry?" Ts'u Lu asked. "There will be ample time to pack up, on the day on which we go." "We'll go to morrow," Hsiang yün rejoined; "for what's the use of remaining here any longer to look at people's mouths and faces?" Pao yü at these words lost no time in pressing forward. "My dear cousin," he urged, "you're wrong in bearing me a grudge. My cousin Lin is a girl so very touchy that though every one else distinctly knew of the resemblance, they wouldn't speak out, and all because they were afraid she would get angry; but unexpectedly you came out with it, at a moment when off your guard, and how ever couldn't she but feel hurt? And it's because I was in dread that you would give offence to people that I then winked at you; and now here you are angry with me, but isn't that being ungrateful to me? Had it been any one else, would I have cared whether she had given offence to even 10? That would have been none of my business." Hsiang yün waved her hand. "Don't," she added, "come and tell me these flowery words and this specious talk, for I really can't come up to your cousin Lin. If others poke fun at her, they all do so with impunity; while if I say anything, I at once incur blame. The fact is, I shouldn't have spoken of her, undeserving as I am, and as she's the daughter of a master, while I'm a slave, a mere servant girl, I've heaped insult upon her." "And yet," pleaded Pao yü, full of perplexity, "I had done it for your sake, and through this I've come in for reproach. But if it were with an evil heart I did so, may I at once become ashes and be trampled upon by 10,000s of people." "In this felicitous first month," Hsiang yün remonstrated, "you shouldn't talk so much reckless nonsense. All these worthless despicable oaths, disjointed words and corrupt language, go and tell for the benefit of those mean sort of people, who in everything take pleasure in irritating others, and who keep you under their thumb. But mind, don't drive me to spit contemptuously at you." As she gave utterance to these words, she betook herself in the inner room of dowager lady Chia's suite of apartments, where she lay down in high dudgeon; and as Pao yü was so heavy at heart, he could not help coming again in search of Tai yü; but strange to say, as soon as he put his foot inside the doorway, he was speedily hustled out of it by Tai yü, who shut the door in his face. Section 51.